Great. So thank you so much for joining us for the 13th deep dive session today. My name is Miwa Park, and I am the WEPs coordinator at Women's Empowerment Principal Global Secretariat at UN Women. So today we are tackling E and S from ESG, and we thought about ways to effectively address this topic of ESG, and we decided to focus on green transition of economy and highlight the importance of ensuring gender inclusivity during the green transition. So we have invited two fantastic speakers who are actively working on ensuring gender responsive green transition that you will hear from today. So let me go over today's agenda. We'll first hear from some introductory remarks from Anna Felt. She's the head of the WEPs Global Secretariat at UN Women. Then I will introduce today's speakers. Then they will present their projects. And I'll continue with my logistical reminders. Again, we have this translate caption function available from Zoom. So you can see the translated speech in real time by selecting an option of the language of your choice, clicking on that CC button. And please feel free to write your questions to the panelists in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen throughout the webinar. And if you'd like to communicate with other participants, please use the chat function. Your questions will be answered during the Q&A session or throughout the chat anytime, and we will try to answer all of them. Also, I wanted to remind you that this webinar is being recorded and later will be uploaded to www.weps.org website to share with general public. Lastly, we will have a short evaluation survey that will pop up when you're leaving the webinar. So please take some time to answer it. We do take a look at those results to improve our future content. So now to get us started, I'd like to invite Anna to deliver her opening remarks. Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Miwa, and good morning, good afternoon, and welcome everyone, and a happy belated Earth Day. So we are celebrating it today, even though it was yesterday, through this webinar. And I hope that you're also taking a moment to think about our Earth and where we are today. So first of all, thanks for joining today's webinar. As Miwa was saying, it's on gender inclusive green transition. And as private sector leaders, your role in shaping the future of work, supply chains, innovation, and sustainability can't be overstated. The global push for net zero emissions and sustainable growth is transforming industries at an unprecedented pace. The green economy is projected to generate over 30 million new jobs by 2030. And businesses are investing in renewable energy, circular production models, and climate-smart technologies. However, the green transition also brings risks, replicating the same inequalities that we have long held women back in traditional industries. So that is one of the reasons why we are discussing this topic. Women currently make up just 32% of the renewable energy workforce, and their participation in green finance, infrastructure, and technology, so the technical side of the industry, remains even lower, especially in leadership and decision-making roles. So today's conversation centers on how we can ensure that the shift to a green economy is not only environmentally sound, but also socially just and inclusive, with gender equality at its core. So why should this matter to you and your companies? First of all, companies with diverse leadership are 25% more likely to outperform their peers in profitability and innovation. And research shows that businesses that embed gender equality in the climate and sustainability strategies are better positioned to meet ESG expectations, attract top talent, and build more resilient operations. Investors, regulators, and consumers are watching and rewarding companies that act on these values. So it isn't only about inequality, it's also a story of opportunity. This is a pivotal moment to build gender equality into the green transition by design, not as an afterthought. That means that we need to invest in green skills training for women and girls, partnering with women-led enterprises in your supply chain, ensuring gender data informs your environmental impact strategies, setting clear targets for women's leadership and sustainability-related roles. These are just some examples. So the private sector has both the responsibility and the opportunity to lead this transformation. Today's session will explore how we can make that happen together. We'll hear from organizations already taking action, and we'll look at practical steps your business can take to advance a just, gender-responsive transition. So thanks again for joining us and for your commitment to building a greener, fair, and more inclusive future. Back to you, Miwa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna, and happy belated Earth Day to everyone. And now I'll introduce you to today's panelists that joined us today. First, we have Fowzia Hassan from the World Bank. She has been working with the World Bank for more than 28 years, and she's the team lead and senior energy operations officer at the World Bank. Her vast knowledge in the infrastructure sector comes from working in many different regions like Africa, South Asia, East Asia, and the Pacific Island, Middle East, and North Africa, and Latin American regions, pretty much everywhere in the world. And she wears two hats currently as a senior energy officer and as a gender expert. So in her capacity as a gender expert and task team leader in energy, she has designed many energy projects revolving around gender prosperity and inclusion within the sector and creating employment, including in fragile and conflict countries. So she's now leading the Africa Gender Energy Program, ensuring to create and foster sustainable economy and opportunities for women in STEM through the project being prepared. She is a Pakistani national, and she holds a bachelor's in economics and master's in MBA from Wales University. Then we have Marwa Hammad. She is the head of global gender strategy at Schneider Electrics. She is a dynamic emerging leader in the gender energy nexus and the winner of Women in Tech Global Best Ally Award in 2024. She channeled her dedication to women's empowerment into initiating Schneider Electric's first global gender strategy to bridge the skills gap while fostering gender equality. So this initiative is a cornerstone of youth education and entrepreneurship program aimed at training 1 million youth in energy management by 2025. And I believe Marwa will be able to speak more to this project later on during her presentation. She also leads the Women in STEM mentorship program, which fosters empowering connections between established role models and aspiring young women in STEM schools and universities. She holds a master's degree in development and humanitarian action from Paris Pantheon Sorbonne University. So we will move on with the first presentation. Fowzia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to speak at this in this webinar. I have so much to share with you. So first, let me introduce myself. Marwa has already introduced me, but just wanted to tell you what, as a lead on gender, we have a platform. We thought it was, necessary to have a platform whereby we can not only outreach our clients through the projects that we are doing, but also invite them to join the network and take the responsibility and commitment and accountability to actually include women, specifically in the energy sector and specifically in the STEM field. So in my experience, I just wanted to share with you, as we are now transitioning to green, and I'm going to talk energy, but this is replicable in almost all sectors. As we're transitioning to the green energy, what are the barriers we're doing? What are the benefits that what are the benefits to women? What are the barriers they're facing? And what it is that we are doing to help them, mitigate these challenges. So can I go to the next slide, please? Okay. So this is the gender gap in Africa's green transition. The World Bank right now has a initiative of M300, which means 300 million green connections, energy access to people in all sub-Saharan Africa. So, and this is a target we have for 2030. So obviously, to meet that, we have to put a plan in place, and how gender is part of this. So what is the main thing that, why we need women in green energy? So right now we're underrepresented. There is, we have I think 15% technical roles in Africa power sector. That's all that is held by women. And it's a huge issue, because as we are moving to meet the targets of each and every country to access to renewable energy and access connections to these people, we are underrepresented. And when we did our analysis and everything, we find that, it's as is everywhere else. There's cultural norms. There's an issue on cultural norms. Women do not go into these STEM fields. There's a security issue, that how do they go into the field, and how are they secure? Then there's a big, huge gender bias where, whenever you talk about women coming into these fields, it's very male dominated, and they're saying, well, women are not, basically they're not supposed to be in this field. So it's a mindset. And then when it comes to education, you find that less and less women are actually in these STEM fields. And then if they do come into the STEM field, then there's a block in their careers, and they're not really in leadership roles. So in sub-Saharan Africa, we have female graduates that range anywhere between 43% in South Africa to 15% in Burkina Faso. And then we also have the earning bracket, which is like 20% less than men on average. But despite all these challenges that we're seeing, DRE companies, we're leading more on gender balanced teams. So as we move along on, what are the impacts? Women are actually more users of energy, and the more access they have of green energy, the more productive they are in economic participation. So it is very, very important that they are part of the transition, and that we actually give them the opportunity not only to participate in the field as users, but also participate as producers. So when it comes to off-grid, we can create lots and lots of jobs there for women, train them, and actually bring them in as off-grid solar, small, medium enterprise companies where they can come in and they can actually maintain, sell these solar panels, install these solar panels, and you don't need to have, you have to have somewhat a background, but you don't really need to have an engineering background for that. You can do it as a technician. Then we, and this is all I'm talking about, in Africa, but as I said, this can be replicated in various regions of the world. As we know, and there's an IEA report that says, there's only, in sub-Saharan Africa, off-grid solar female employment is 27%. And in Kenya, it's actually very high, it's 41%. But still, the percentage is not what we need, and there's no equality here. There's we don't talk about women being equal in the energy field. And I can go on and on about what the gaps are. But what I'd like to tell you is what it is at the World Bank, what we are doing to ensure not only that women are, brought into the green energy field, but how we're removing the barriers, and then, why we think women are essential for the sustainability of the energy sector. So there's two aspects. What is the World Bank doing? The World Bank has a gender strategy that was presented to the World Bank Board 2018, and we keep updating that. When Africa is only part of a network under the World Bank, we're divided by sectors, regions. So we have South Asia, we have ECA, we have MENA, which is Middle East and North Africa, and then we have Africa, and we have LAC, which is Latin America. Each of our regions has tried to launch these kind of networks. We've been very successful in South Asia, which is called We Power. We've been very successful in Middle East and North Africa, and it's called Renew MENA. We are very now successful in Africa, which is called WEN Africa, Women in Energy Network, and LAC, which is Latin America, and our East Asia, Central Asia. They're still young, and they're coming into they're trying to replicate what we are doing in the other sectors and regions. WEN Africa, which we launched about last year in February, we started out with 9 partners, and our main goal was bringing women into the STEM field in the energy sector, retaining them, providing them internships and opportunities to participate in the sector, and then looking at the leadership roles of how we can bring them from women who already exist in this and bring them up as leaders so that they're in the decision-making, they have the decision-making power. Sorry, thank you for moving to the next slide. Thank you. So currently, WEN Africa is taking charge, and we're working with our stakeholders who are public utilities, private sector companies, and a lot of them are probably right now here watching this webinar and are participating in it. And we are looking at how to increase their participation, professional leaders, entrepreneurs in the energy sector. Recently, because we launched the M300, as I mentioned to you, we've added another pillar of entrepreneurship in WEN Africa, where we're going to work with women, small and medium enterprises that women have, and help them participate in the energy sector in renewable energy, which is what we consider green energy, right? So in the 1 year that we have launched, we have seen that our partners, which are 21 right now, we started with 9. This April, we ended up with 21. And it's high commitment from ministries, it's commitment from utilities, regulators, and the private sector as well. So we have, so what happens is they commit to various activities under our pillars. And we have 610 gender-focused activities that we are now implementing. And this is benefiting about 21,800 women. We're having workshops, we're developing capacity through all these partners, and we have incubators in the different utilities where we're bringing in interns. Sometimes in 1 year, we're doing like 120 interns in one utility. And then these interns have the opportunity, there's 2 purposes. Interns come in at, at early university level. They say that they've worked in these utilities, and then they go find jobs. So they're spreading out and looking for jobs. Women who are already graduated, we try to see if we can place them in various positions in utilities in the energy field. And we have like 3 of our partners have already hired 57 women, which are basically it's a huge thing in 1 year. And then we work with high schools where we're going in and we have these campaigns, awareness campaigns. We're trying to bring in more younger women towards the STEM fields and attracting them to the STEM fields. So it's going to be a long-term thing when it comes to that level. But then we're also looking at a level where we already have women who are maybe have their bachelor's in the STEM fields. And we're trying to work with them by providing them scholarships, their subsidized scholarships, to actually get them higher education or get them certified and to bring them into these fields of high technical fields and high leadership fields. So as I said, and then not only are we bringing them into the field, but then we're also working on how to retain them and how to sustain them in this field. And, there's various things that are being done. There's basically, we're looking into daycares, whether we can create daycares in the utilities or any entity that is working with us so that they can actually bring their kids in and, sustain their job as well as look after their kids. And we're looking at all the barriers there are to bring women into this field. And then we're trying to address each and every barrier by being innovative, by bringing in, various things that we can do so that these women stay after all the capacity that is built, that they are actually staying within the field and not moving out. We have issues where we have now engineers who are going into the fields, and they ask us how do we stay secure? GBV is a big issue and all that. So we actually have mentors within these entities who, when they bring in these women, they're mentoring them and they are the champions for them. When they take them into the field, they are taking the responsibility of their security and, ensuring that they are secured, they have the proper amenities, the bathroom facilities and all these kind of things. So it's a huge thing that we're looking at. But being the World Bank, I think we can delve into that and we can take the responsibility of ensuring that, all the utilities and all the entities that are coming on board are looking at these things, and we're ensuring as much security as we can. The other thing is that then we are also looking at policies and regulations, and we're doing deep dives through our projects now. So let me bring you down to what we're doing in our projects. Through our projects, we are making sure that we are designing gender-informed projects, and we are actually putting KPIs in it. Now, these KPIs are looking into the policies, the regulations, and what needs to be improved on it. And this is HR policies, it's country policies. We're looking into that and looking at the gaps in it, and then working with these entities to ensure that these gaps at the public side, these gaps are filled and the reforms are coming in. And as we're moving with the reforms and everything, we are actually seeing, and I must say this, we are actually seeing that our African counterparts are actually committed to doing this kind of work. They're committed to looking at these policies. They're committed to looking at any barriers that the women are facing, because they realize that they need to bring women into these sectors to be economically viable, to bring up, to enrich their economic environment. And at the end, we don't just leave it at that. The KPIs that we are building in each of our projects, as we are implementing, we are monitoring. Same thing goes for WEN Africa. As they commit to the activities they are going to do, we follow through on, basically through our webinars, through our through virtual meetings, and ensure that they are actually moving along on what they've committed to. And then just recently, we published our first annual report, and all we see is good things happening. We have a whole report that if you ever go to WEN Africa website, you can find it over there. So at the end, I just want to tell you that it looks impossible, but it's not. And if you have the buy-in from public sector, private sector, and then you can bring these women up to a point where they're willing to participate when you give them the environment for it, there is a huge possibility of coming to equality. But it's going to take some time. So let me end it at that. Thank you. And I'm open for questions if you have any. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Fowzia. And I think some questions are coming in the Q&A and more will come up and we'll address those during the Q&A session. So now we're going to move ahead with our second presentation. Marwa, so over to you.
Hello, thank you so much, Miwa, and thank you so much for Fowzia. Actually, it's really insightful, and I wanted to reflect that actually for Schneider Electric, we have very strong ties, and moving forward, we will be having even more stronger ties with the World Bank as we are actually focusing on this multi-stakeholder approach and women empowerment. Thank you so much once again, Miwa, for the invitation and everyone for your excitement in the chat. My name is Marwa Hammad, as Miwa shared with all of you. I'm leading the global gender strategy for Schneider Electric, the Youth Education and Entrepreneurship Program, which I will be sharing with you all the details about it in a second. But at the beginning, I wanted to share with you how actually we have this linkage between Schneider Electric and women empowerment principles. So all started back in 2016 when we signed, when we have this collaboration with Women Empowerment Principles. We had it happen in 40 countries. And here you can find all the countries announced and mentioned, but also wanted to share with you a very nice reflection that we will be having today, which is that for last year, there was a Women Empowerment Principles Award for Pacific Asia. And we received this award for Philippines and Indonesia. And today I will be sharing with you our journey and how actually we reached to get this kind of award and this kind of recognition. Thank you. So introducing to you the Youth Education and Entrepreneurship Program, the main idea behind the program or the main objective is actually to address the skills gap and secondly, to address gender disparities in the energy transition field. As Fowzia mentioned and Anna mentioned as well, these are the statistics that I believe it's well known on the gender disparities in the field and how we can find that 1 in 4 girls are not in education, employment, or training, which is very alerting. But as we have the challenge, we also have the opportunity as we have 139 million new jobs that expected to be generated in 2030. And the skills gap can be filled if we provide a suitable education for girls. And also some data about the entrepreneur situation for the energy startups. It's only 11%. And for the energy sector workforce, it's only 24% with 28% for STEM. And these data are according to the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, and all the details are mentioned here. And also, I wanted to reflect on the challenges and barriers that are mentioned by UN Women, and this is why actually having the guidance of the Women Empowerment Principles was essential for us in building the strategy in the program itself. You can see that the climate and environmental emergencies are affecting women more than men, and also the male dominance of the energy sector, and finally, the limited access to education and the lack of companies' gender-inclusive policies. Moving forward, I will show you how Schneider, as an impact company, actually built a strategy and had this KPI perspective as well in order to push forward for women empowerment to be embedded, not as an extra pillar, because when we are speaking about 51% of the population, then it cannot be an extra pillar. We cannot call women as marginalized numbers or vulnerable communities, because in this case, we are over half of the population. So the KPI that we had is to empower 1 million youth and to have 10,000 entrepreneurs supported and same for trainers trained. Moving forward, you can see the data that we achieved. Thank you, Miwa. So here, these are the data. This is our dashboard for Q4 2024. And hopefully by the end of this year, we will be achieving the 1 million. You will see our presence in over 60 countries with 400 projects. And again, our main like pillar, a framework is actually to work on a multi-stakeholders approach where we invite everyone on the table. We have the NGOs collaboration, we have other private sector companies, as well as international organizations like UN Women and Women Empowerment Principles, for example. And here you can see the diversity and worldwide action that we're having, and we're expanding currently in Central Asia as well. Moving forward, just to share with you a bit about what the program is doing or how we built the program to support women and giving a priority for them. So within the 1 million, you will find that some of the programs are targeting 100% women. So it's only targeting women. In other cases, we have 50% female participation. So where we noticed that this specific community requires, or for the workforce afterwards for the factory, as we are targeting technical and vocational education and training, they require to have exposure to men, to the other gender. So in this case, we decided to establish, based on the local need, a 50% program for women, so they get exposed to the other gender. And also it was very beneficial for men, so they can actually notice from an early age the importance of having women and working with them in the same workplace. So actually, we started from the level of awareness, the perception of gender roles and women rights. So that's why we have built this strategic partnership with specialized organizations, for example, like the one that we're having with Women Empowerment Principles. So the main idea is working on a higher level, on a decision-making level, in order to change this perception of gender roles. And then we worked on the cultural and social norms, where we provided advocacy and awareness campaigns to the locals, to the parents, for example, to convince them to have their girls and their daughters enrolled in the program. And also for if women are married, for example, we need to have this community awareness working on ground with local entities and NGOs who are specialized, who have the best knowledge of the field, like Plan International, for example, and we work with them on these awareness campaigns. Moving forward, it doesn't stop there, because if we worked on the decision making, if we work on the community, we're missing the most important part, which is women self-perception and the imposter syndrome, which is dedicated to be mostly happening to women. So we have the Women in STEM Mentorship Program. And this program, the objective is to connect Schneider Electric role models, employees, and connect them with girls enrolled in STEM schools and universities in order to have this mentorship happening. And this program is currently operating in over 10 countries. And actually it's helpful on the level of awareness and self-perception. So moving forward to the operational level, we have the access to the training, access to training through supporting vocational training centers. So we provide adapted energy training programs, and afterwards we also facilitate the access to employment by providing a training on CV building after having this vocational training. And when we say that you receive the vocational training and you are part of the 1 million, we mean that you received a minimum of 120 hours of training. In some countries, it can like be more than 3 years. So it depends on the accreditation that we will be receiving from the country. And then after having the vocational training, we also have some programs that are not for technical education students, but also for university students. So in this case, we are providing new skills for the future innovation skills. In this, we provide STEM competencies and exposure on climate concepts and climate change and carbon footprints. And after finishing this educational phase, we move forward to prototypes workshops where they can have their own innovative projects, and they can have simulations on, like, for example, solar panels projects and so on. And after they pitch it, we also have the opportunity, if they have, we have the entrepreneur support in case you want to move forward with your project. We provide the support of the training and also the funding, for example, management skills and financial literacy. And finally, as I said, we are connecting them after finishing the training program. We try our best to connect them to the work force and to give them opportunities to employment. Can move forward here. As I mentioned, you can see all the entities that we collaborate. We collaborate with nonprofit organizations, educational institutions for TVET, governmental authorities, and international organizations. And on the right here, you can see it's the minimum of 3 months, counting 120 hours of training. If you can move forward. Here, I wanted to share with you actually one example of our program. This one is from Africa. It's happening in Senegal, Mali, Niger, in collaboration with Plan International, and Schneider as an entity also collaborate with Schneider Electric Foundation to emphasize the impact of the project. But initially, the Youth Education and Entrepreneurship Program is a Schneider Electric initiative. And here you will see all the like the steps that I mentioned. So this first program, we are working on first we provided the training excellence centers, and it actually impacted 7,000 women. And moving forward, we also provided electrification for the region with 6 microgrids that were installed and provided rural electrification and access to energy in the region. And also for the entrepreneurs side, we have over 6,000 small and medium enterprises in solar energy. And on the right here, I wanted to share with you an idea about the multi-stakeholders approach, where you can see that, for example, Plan International worked on the awareness level, Schneider Electric, we worked on renewable energy solution training and the infrastructure itself. And we definitely had the government and quality assurance research bodies to follow up and to provide this accreditation happening. A small reflection on the past project, sorry for that, Miwa, that we received this year in January, the World Economic Forum DI Lighthouse Award for the program on this fairs. And here for Bangladesh, it's also similar to the last one, but the difference is the innovative pillar. This is a program that we're having also with the partners mentioned above, and it's happening in Cox's Bazar. It's one of the biggest refugees camps in the world. And you here see that the problem that we saw that was the lack of an electrical network. And what we did is we provided not only technical and vocational education, but also digital education. And it started by training of trainings to build the local training capacity, and then short-term training and digital tools because it was more adaptable to the local reality in the refugee camp. And finally, it had the certification because it was needed if you hold the refugee status to have a set of certificates in order to be employed afterwards. And also wanted to share with you this. This is also a digital education program that we're having. And it's also always a minimum of 120 hours, and it's provided to students coming from any background who wants to learn more about the energy transition, and if they want to have their own projects happening. For example, it has 3 main phases. The first one, awareness on the career opportunities in the energy transition and the necessary skills. And finally, practical support on skills to employment or any type of further education. And it's 100% online as well. And snips of our STEM and mentorship, women and STEM mentorship program. It's also related to what Fowzia mentioned. But this is where we invite actually Schneider employees to volunteer their time and effort to connect with girls and actually give them awareness, exposure about the career opportunities, and showcasing female role models where you can be a successful engineer, a wife, a mother, and so on. So this also got a recognition from Women in Tech under the hot patronage of Emmanuel Macron for as initiative for empowering women through mentorship. Okay. Those are from testimonials. You can check later for from our programs, but I just wanted to show you if like the main purpose of the program is the impact that we would have first technical electricians, or we can support women to become entrepreneurs, and finally we can support them to become green ambassadors. And I will share with you in the chat our white paper that has many case studies and success stories, but also video testimonials of beneficiaries. And this is for the Women Empowerment Principles Award. I will take you through it and how we got it for Indonesia. So the award that we received was for community engagement and partnership category. And this one is one of the activities that we do for empowering women, and this happened in Indonesia, beside the main strategy of internal empowerment for women, but also this was for having the female electricians boot camp. You can find all the details here mentioned as well. I don't go to, I know we don't have a lot of time left, Mihua, but the main idea what actually that we wanted to recognize the underrepresentation of women in technical roles. So this initiative, the main purpose is actually to upskill female electricians. And it actually supported the key action that we did was having a supportive and inclusive environment to provide this kind of education and equipping women electricians with the competencies they need after having the information of their requests. And moving forward, we had this like partnership happening in region and local communities together. And you can see the region that we have in the boot camp. And we had also the mentors from Schneider working closely with them. And as you can see, the results and our success story that we had as a result, we had actually one of the beneficiaries became a community leader, and actually she managed like herself, she became an ambassador of the program. So one day a beneficiary, now she was an empowered woman and she's working on empowering women. So yeah, I will stop here, and if you have any questions, I would elaborate. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Marwa, for this wonderful presentation and all the good practices and success stories from Schneider Electric. And our Q&A box is on fire. So I'm going to invite Anna to moderate through this Q&A session. So Anna, over to you.
Thank you so much, Miwa. Indeed, it's on fire. We have a lot of questions. But first, just to thank our two speakers for really presenting an holistic approach to advancing gender equality in the green transition. It is not just to do one piece of it, but it requires an holistic approach, from working with girls in high schools to providing skills, upskilling and skills development, to job placement, to then making sure that they are not just in the company, but they also staying there. If the policies are not aligned with gender equality values, women might not want to stay in the company, etc. So thank you so much for really outlining this need for a holistic approach. I will go through a few questions. I think we can make a few rounds. We have a little bit more than half an hour to go through all of the questions, because there is quite a number of them. The first one is really about statistics. If you could both elaborate a little bit on the availability and quality of gender data that links to energy transition and the participation of women. And how is that available statistics or not, used to help advance women's participation? There's a few questions that links to what can be done in the rural areas specifically, where women are living on subsistence farming, but depending on land and forest, and who are the ones that are the most impacted by climate change? Any strategies for there that you've been using in your organizations? Then there's a lot of questions on how to get involved with both of you. How can you link up? How can you participate in these activities, both from the World Bank, not only in the region you presented, Fowzia, but also in other regions? There's a great interest to come along. There's some people that are real experts and trainers that would like to get involved, others that would like to get involved in other different ways. So we can also share the contact details with you, but if you have any suggestions, but also how can you connect up with the WEN Africa, for example. And then there is, and maybe Miwa, this is a question for you. This is wonderful. A company is not a web signatory. How can we join? So I think we'll stop at those, and then we can take another round of questions afterwards. So Marwa, would you like to start?
Yeah, thank you so much, Anna. So for the statistics, exactly, as I mentioned, we have this KPI as objective, and it was launched in 2009, sorry. And moving forward, how we're counting actually is based on the minimum of 120 hours. But for the statistics itself, for the last World Economic Forum, for example, we saw that actually there is an advancement when it comes to STEM and when it comes to women in the energy sector, but it's very low and the baseline is quite low as well. So it's achievement, but we cannot celebrate it, to be honest.
Great. Fowzia?
So we have a very different approach to data there. So when you look at, you know that the UN agencies and World Bank now, we work on SDGs, right? So we have all these SDGs and we see where gender comes in and how we can address it. Unfortunately, SDG 7, which is access to affordable energy, there is no gender KPI in it. And that is where we stand right now. We're doing access, we're doing, affordable energy, we're for all. We're trying to alleviate poverty, but we in the SDGs do not have any KPIs, in the SDG 7 specifically. So our approach is on a project level, when we go in to help a country in the energy sector, in the utility, we do gap assessments, gender gap assessments. That is a prerequisite for us to do. And then we look at that gap assessment, and then we take it from there and put it into a gender action plan. Now that gender action plan feeds into our KPI, which usually is, our KPI is usually bringing a certain percentage of women into the utility in jobs. And number one, and then number two, also, if we're doing access work, a number of percentage of female-headed households that are to be connected. So this is like two of the indicators we will put in. We have many more, but these are the two indicators we'll put in. And then we'll use that gap assessment and put the action plan in place to ensure that these indicators are being met. We have to be very realistic. I mean, we put in something like a 30% increase in women's jobs in, the energy sector, in the utility, or 50% of women, female-headed households to have access. But we don't get there, right? Because we're starting from the bottom and we're moving up. So it's going to be a gradual move. So as we go along, we are collecting the data. And our data, as I told you, first we start with data of coding, or like IEA, what the World Bank has in other places. But then we do it specific country by country, project by project, and then we build on that. So we are now in the point of we are now collecting the data for Africa. It doesn't exist. What exists is not verified, and it doesn't dig down deep into it. But right now, through WEN Africa and through the projects that we are doing, we are now collecting that data. And we have some, but it's not something that we will share until we're very 100% sure that, we have that data, proper data.
If I may add also, thank you so much,
Yes.
Fowzia. If I may add the fact on the data as well, When we struggled with this, actually focus group was our escapism, because whenever we're having the focus group, we know the local needs, and we actually tailor the program specifically for the needs. For example, we cannot actually provide education and training on renewable energies if there is no electrification in the region itself. So we need to work on the infrastructure as a first step, and then moving forward, we can work on the training. For example, we cannot work on providing entrepreneurship without having the validation of the community on the fact that women had the right of accessing this entrepreneurship and having this financial autonomy. So we need always to look at the grassroots, what are the problems and how to work on it, whether it's infrastructure or community challenges.
Thank you.
Also, if I can add just one more thing.
Yes.
On WEN Africa, before we launched it, we actually did sub-Saharan Africa-wide study to actually gather the data that we had that was available. There wasn't much, but that is what WEN Africa was based on then. We took those gaps that we saw from all over Africa, and then we launched our activities in WEN Africa to actually look at those gaps. And so the commitments that we have from our entities is actually looking at that gaps and filling those up as well. Again, data is not available as we can disseminate right now, but WEN Africa, if you want to go to the WEN Africa website, we have our report that shows the activities that are taking place right now and the data over there.
Great. Thank you so much. And this is actually something that we are doing from the Web Secretariat this year, is also to look at the indicators that we have already proposed to our community for us to report on. I also shared earlier in the chat the transparency and accountability framework for the WEPs that gives a menu of different indicators. And we are actually consulting with a WEP signatory this year to understand better how they are measuring and how we can also update our reporting framework. But that brings me to Miwa, the question that we got about how to join the WEPs.
No, thank you so much. And I actually, we never get these questions on Deep Dive, but I'll be happy to walk you through how to join the WEPs. So for those who hasn't joined the WEPs, Women's Empowerment Principles, so we are an initiative targeting the private sector to advance gender equality and women's empowerment in their workplace, marketplace, and community. With that said, all the private sector entities are eligible to become a WEP signatory. So if you're from a private sector company, if you have a for-profit activity and you're legally registered, you are eligible. Or if you are a chamber of commerce or industry association, you're also eligible to become a WEP signatory. So at the moment, we have around 10,000 signatories from more than 190 different countries in the world. And unfortunately, we are not accepting NGOs or governments as WEP signatories because this is an initiative for the private sector. With that said, if you're an eligible company, organization would like to join the WEPs, you can visit our website at www.weps.org and fill out the join form. And if you have any questions, I'll leave our email here so you can reach out to us and ask how to become a signatory. We do get this question a lot. It is free to become a WEP signatories. Become a signatory, and we offer capacity building programs like this one that you're having. But with that said, we actually have a webinar coming up on 7th of May, walking you through the 7 principles of the Women's Empowerment Principles and how to join the WEPs. And we will invite a couple of WEP signatory companies to tell them about their, what we call this WEPs journey, their journey of advancing gender equality and women's empowerment in their company and beyond. So if you are interested, please do join us. So over to you again, Anna and colleagues.
Thank you
so much. Can I add to that?
Yes.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to join any of the networks that we have, because we have everyone from almost every, we have a whole global attendance here. We do have, we can provide you with the links or contacts to people who are running the various networks. Just keep in mind, we are working with only entities. and we do not fund the activities. The World Bank does not fund activities. You need to come in with your own resources and commitment to it. And that's why we have more utilities and, public sector, because they have the funds to do this kind of work.
Yeah, so you can sign the WEPs and join the network so you can use the principles to advance gender equality and women's empowerment with your company, and we become your roadmap. So I think that's a nice transition to second set of questions.
There you go.
Thank you, Miwa. And thank you, Fowzia, for also clarifying that. I will go, we have a lot of still questions to tackle. One is actually a few questions are about women entrepreneurship in this sector. And if you have any recommendations for startups, business owners, small companies that are looking for capital to either start or grow their business, that's one question. One is also, how does this work that you're doing and what can be done to support women living with disabilities, particularly in rural areas? Then again, it's questions on how to get involved. So if you have any more information about that, you could share. There is one question about the whole issue of convening women in women-owned groups versus mixed groups versus the potential backlash with men in general, men in the household or men in the community. If you could just maybe share some thoughts around the convening of women-owned versus mixed groups or etc. We have also the socio-cultural barriers to STEM education. So both of you have talked about skills development and going to high schools and working with high schools on education, etc. If you have encountered those socio-cultural barriers, particularly for women, but also for youth, and how you're tackling those, that would also be very helpful. But I think I've given you enough to answer before I tackle the next round. We still have a lot of questions coming, so thank you.
Can I start on this one?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
It's fresh in my mind, so I can, give responses to this. When it comes to startups, as I mentioned, small and medium enterprises, what we are doing is, as I said, we're rolling out this energy access program. To do the 300 million connections, the World Bank or any of our IFIs cannot fund it. It's billions of dollars that is needed. So for that reason, the private sector is being brought in. Private sector is moving out into the rural areas, right, to get all these connections done. And then what we are facilitating is what we called an RBF. So there's a vehicle whereby we ask commercial banks to be able to lend to smaller, medium enterprises in those rural areas who can run these kind of things. So basically, putting up the solar systems, household solar systems, maintaining them, and having these kind of small businesses. And there's a whole process where they are also taught how to do all of this kind of thing and maintain it. So what the World Bank is doing is actually lending from Ministry of Finance, lending to these commercial banks, who are then lending to smaller, medium enterprises. And we're giving preference to women, small and medium enterprises. And the interest rates we're focusing on is that they also pass on the lowest interest rate they can possibly to them, so that they can actually do these businesses. And because usually commercial banks, the interest rate is really high. So we're also trying to negotiate through the ministries that the interest rate is really low. So that's how we're trying to reach out into the rural area. And we have no policy where if there's a disability or anything of that sort, that they can. If they can borrow at a certain, at a certain level, and they can run a small business, then the World Bank does not look at, we don't have any criteria where we don't, we won't provide funding to someone like that through our private and commercial banks. Now, if the fact of convening where it was women only or mixed, or then, how to reach out to maybe the social household level. So we believe for women to come into the STEM fields and to be able to come into the energy field, we need champions, and most of our champions are men. We do have also mentorship coming from women who have achieved something, but they're very low in, percentage. So we, as I mentioned to you, when we're taking the women out into the field, we have people who have taken responsibility as mentors. Most of them are men, because they are there saying, okay, here I am, a man who is actually giving you the message that women can do this work as well. So we don't only convene women, we convene a mixture of people, because we need to have the voices of the men who are championing this, and actually women who have already been successful in this field. So we bring them all together to give the encouragement to these women that it's something that is achievable, right? We just don't have too many of them, but it is achievable. We have not gone through the household level, but what our utilities and entities have done, and this awareness campaign that I was talking about, we're also thinking of doing advertisements running on TV. So, they're coming in saying, hey, Dad, I want to, go into an engineering field. And the dad actually encouraging them that, yeah, go ahead. The mother actually encouraging them to go ahead, we'll support you. And we are finding that there are a lot of fathers and mothers who are supporting their daughters to go into these fields. But it's just the mindset that you have to change. And you can only do that through awareness campaigns. We as the World Bank can't go into the households and say, educate the parents, but we can do it at a higher level and get our utilities and, the various entities we're working with to actually do that. And we are seeing a huge change. I can give you a very quick example. I know Zanzibar, which is a small island off of Tanzania. When we went in there, that is the culture over there is very male-oriented. And when we went in there and we thought, oh, we're not going to be able to do gender work here, the surprise you have over there is they are our best star example, where we can show you how many women have come into internship over there, how many women have been hired, and how many women are coming into that education because of just what the ZECO, which is the Zanzibar electricity company, has done. So out of all of Africa, Zanzibar, where we thought nothing could happen, is our star example, where we have gender inclusion in the energy sector. So I think I've responded to most of those questions. Thank you.
Great. Marwa?
Yeah, thank you so much, Fowzia. Actually, building on what you shared, the first point on entrepreneurship. As I mentioned, within our work, we have the entrepreneurship as one of the main pillars of action. But what I would advise is also to check our impact investing strategy. So today I shared with you what is our strategy when it comes to entrepreneur support and their journey to become entrepreneurs, to be ready for the market, and to have the main skills. But for the funding itself, each company, including Schneider Electric, has a very strong impact investing strategy, where you can check boxes on the criteria on how to be supported by Schneider. And actually, it's for all levels of entrepreneurs or startups. It depends if it's social innovative or social targeting startup, or if it has work on the energy sector, because actually it counts. So there are diverse opportunities. And also we had last year a masterclass for entrepreneurs specifically, and we invited the impact investing team to share with them how they choose the entrepreneur that they aim to support. And we also had a testimonial from an entrepreneur supported in India, but please feel free to connect with me and I will share with you all the information about it. And actually it's online, you can find it everywhere. on what is the strategy of impact investing departments at the corporates. Secondly, for the disabilities, actually within Schneider, we have disabilities agenda, and it's really advanced. But what we are working on currently is how to include the gender and the disabilities agenda. So how to empower women who have specific disabilities or coming from PRUs, and how actually to have within the disabilities agenda more focus on women, and not only to have this accessible workplace, but also having preparation before joining the workforce and education and so on. So the third question was on if we in the programs, we give priority to having 100% women or 50% women. So sharing with you some examples from different countries based on also the sociocultural element. In Pakistan, for example, even the factories, they are like we have only factories for women, workplaces for women, and other workplaces for men. So it wasn't acceptable to have a classroom for education or a factory simulation where we have girls and boys, for example. But in Egypt, the factory setup host girls and men working on the same table. So in this case, we were like, it was very important for us to work on providing classroom that has men and women in the same room, because we want to get them ready for the workforce in the market that they will be included in. So most of the cases, it depends on the government orientation and the culture and the infrastructure of the factories to get them ready to the workforce. And finally, for the STEM education, the last question of it's basically, as mentioned, it depends on having the mentorship happening and having the awareness for the community. If not, we will see a lot of girls enrolled in STEM schools and universities, but afterwards they tend to be working in managerial roles or administrative roles. And the why was that they have a lack of role models. They cannot have someone to look up to. They didn't hear about opportunities, and they tend to see it as male-dominated field. So why to go through the hassle? And this is why we're working on two levels: the decision-making level, and also connecting them with role models from the private sector to have this exposure. Thank you.
Thank you so much to both of you. We have only a few minutes left, but we do have a question that goes into a little bit the holistic approach that we talked about earlier, and how to connect the issues of violence and machismo, etc., with this work. If you have any insights on that. Then there was also a question for clarification on what, when we are talking about technical skills and non-technical skills that women need, what are we talking about more in practice, like more practical suggestion for those skills development areas? Then Fowzia, you had mentioned a website to check data that you mentioned for Sub-Saharan Africa. If you could maybe put it in the chat or remind people what that was, that they didn't manage to take note of that. And then Miwa, maybe you can just reiterate also the next webinar. I think the one you mentioned was 7th of May, but if you could also help to where people can go to register to that. And then once each of you, since time is very short, if you could give one recommendation from your side for anyone that would like to work on in the private sector, that are based in the private sector, that would like to work on gender equality, they are in business, like in that forming part of the green transition, any recommendation for how to get started or how to be successful in this area? So with those, we would then close. So I would maybe ask Fowzia first, if you could respond to these questions, and then Marwa, and then Miwa, and then we close.
Sorry, Anna, can you repeat the first question?
It was about the holistic approach of
Right.
making sure that girls and women are not exposed to violence when you're working on these
Right.
areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the World Bank, GBV, gender-based violence, is a huge issue for us, not only because we're talking gender, but as our contractors go in to build and construct, we also have to, think about the women who are in that area. And we're usually in rural areas when we're doing infrastructure. So we have, it is mandatory for us to go in and do consultations before the construction starts. It is mandatory for us to make sure that every village, the women are invited and they attend. Otherwise, we won't have those consultations, and to inform them that there are men who are going to come into this area. This is how GBV looks like. This is how abuse looks like. We try to prevent it, right? And then on our implementation side, our implementation agency does the same thing with the contractors that come in. Their continuous awareness campaigns are being done, and they're held accountable. So we start with prevention. We're not looking at if something happens, this is what's going to happen. We're looking at this is not supposed to happen. So on a project level, that is what we're doing. And then we're also working with GBV in the utilities. We're bringing women into these workplaces. We are making sure that the HR policy has GBV addressed, and that everyone is very much aware that we're bringing women to the workforce. This is how you are going to, conduct your business with women. And also the women are being told this is how you're going to conduct your business with the men. So there's a whole thing behind it and we tell them, give them examples. This is what is correct. This is what is not correct. So this is what you need to do. And it's not only a one-time thing we do, it's a continuous thing. We have, awareness keep coming out. And then in every project, we also have a grievance redress mechanism site, where in every village or every area that is impacted by the work that we are doing, that people can come and give their grievances of what's going on. And usually if it is, when it comes to GBV or anything of that sort, usually those people who are sitting there maintaining the GRM are actually going out into the villages and talking about this. So we're only not trying to prevent it. I mean, not only trying to address it, but we're trying to prevent it from the beginning. So that's on GBV. On skill sets, especially when it comes to the private sector, I mean, we look towards our private sector entities who are working with us, right? What Marwa just said, these are the people we would like to partnership with and bring up the skills of women in the rural areas and the areas that are affected, creating those skills. And as I said, maintaining solar panels in households or, doing the connections. It's not a highly technical field. It is a field that you can learn and you can help. You need to develop those skills. And that is what we our NGOs will do for us, or what Marwa is doing. These kind of entities we rely on to help us do these skill sets. Again, keep in mind that we work on a very high level through governments. The World Bank only works through the governments and brings in the private sector, but through the government. So our reach is so far we can go, but we try to get down to the roots of it and, help. But there's certain amounts that we can do. Then we rely on our private sector entities who will help us do all of this. The website, I think my colleague Meskaram has already put the links on the web, the When Africa LinkedIn and the website where you can find the data. And then, what was the last question? Sorry.
Yeah, I think we are good. We are only
Okay.
have 2 minutes left, so I think
Okay.
that's fine
Good.
anyway.
Thank you. Thank you. I can't read my own writing, so.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. I think
Okay.
you covered most of it.
Thank
I
you.
just want to, before I hand it over to Marwa, just to mention a little bit this holistic approach and that you mentioned, it's not supposed to be an afterthought in doing this work. It is really by design. So
Yes.
if you do it by design, these issues should not be happening. So thanks for raising that. And also the importance of us using the value chain, the supply chain, and building an ecosystem where everybody is doing this by design would help us to advance gender equality. So did she
I
drop?
think you've lost. I think you've lost Marwa.
I think we lost her. I don't know if she's coming back. But in any case, what we will do on our side, we will summarize this conversation. It has been recorded. And before I will hand it over to Miwa to just talk a little bit about the meeting that people were asking about. We did put it in the chat, but it's a very, very burning chat, so you easily kind of lose the information. So Miwa, if you would like to then close us off and also mention the survey. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. I think Marwa had some difficulties with electricity and internet connection, so she unfortunately had dropped. But we can of course get in touch with her, and if you have any further questions, so we can address that to her. With that said, when you're exiting, you will be receiving a evaluation survey, so please do fill that out so we can improve our content for the future and we can look into your answers. So to answer your questions regarding upcoming WEPs events, a couple of things. If you're interested in joining the WEPs and you want to learn about the 7 principles and testimonies from those companies who has joined the WEPs, how they've been using WEPs as their roadmap and guidance to advance gender equality, we have a webinar on 7th of May at 9 a.m. New York time. That is 10 a.m. Sao Paulo, 2 p.m. Lagos, 4 p.m. Istanbul, and 8 p.m. Jakarta, that we are collaborating with UN Global Compact. So please join us, and you can find the registration link through weps.org website. I'm going to share in the chat. And also, as part of our deep dive series, we are going to host another one on 21st of May. That one will be on ensuring employee health, well-being, and safety that is aligned with our Principle 3. And you will receive an invitation about this webinar. So please do join us again. And thank you so much for joining us today, Fowzia and Marwa, although she's not here, and Anna for moderating us. And we look forward to continuing this journey of advancing gender. Oh, there she is. Marwa, we were just about to close out, but I understand that sometimes in your country that happens, that connection. But do you have, so I was about to close up, but do you have any last word that you'd like to share with participants? We've missed you.
Maybe just a final recommendation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. Just like a clarification when it comes to the skill set and the energy transition, because we received this question. So we have the technical energy training, which is vocational training on electricity principles and renewable energy. But we also have the new skills for the future training. And this training include the climate awareness, how to make youth or women more resilient to crises, including climate crises. So to raise the knowledge and to actually embed this innovative mindset for youth to be more resilient to problems. And also, you will find in the white paper that I shared how we did it and what is the set of skills that would be offered to university students and what is the set of skills to be offered to technical education students. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So everyone, have a great evening, great morning, great afternoon, and continues to your day. So looking forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.